By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which voice in your head was theirs. Not a vague feeling about it, the actual line. The exact sentence you've been repeating to yourself for months, sometimes years, certain it was your own honest opinion of you. You'll be able to point at it and say, "That one. That was never mine." Carl Jung gave us the tool for this almost 100 years ago, and once you have it, you can't put it down. He called it a complex, a foreign body living inside your own mind, something with its own will. And here's what matters most for you. A complex sounds like someone. It has a specific voice, a specific person behind it, because that's exactly what it is. There's a way to tell, almost instantly, whether a thought belongs to you or to them. I'll hand it to you before the end. Here's what almost everyone gets wrong in recovery. You assume the cruel voice is just you being honest with yourself. So you fight it the only way that makes sense. You try to be better. You over-apologize. You rehearse the conversation in the car on the way home, building the perfect defense for a person who isn't even sitting next to you. You reread one text 5 times before you send it, scanning your own words for the crime they trained you to expect. And when the voice says you're too much, or you're imagining things, or it didn't happen the way you remember, you don't argue with the voice. You agree with it. You call that self-awareness. Jung would tell you why this never works. A complex is autonomous. It resists your conscious will by design. You cannot think positive hard enough to overpower it, because it isn't living in the part of your mind that answers to logic. Every time you try to win the argument, you lose. Not because you're weak, because you've been arguing with the wrong opponent in a language it doesn't speak. So where did it come from? Psychologists who study narcissistic abuse have a precise name for it: internalized gaslighting. While you were with them, they handed you the lines. You're too sensitive. That's not what happened. You're the problem here. You heard those sentences so many times, under so much stress, that your nervous system did what nervous systems do under threat. It memorized them. It built a copy of their voice so it could brace for the attack before the attack arrived. That copy didn't leave when they left. It stayed behind and kept talking. This is the complex doing exactly what Jung said it does. He described it splitting off and behaving like an independent being. Speaking, he wrote, in voices like the voices of definite people. That contempt you aim at yourself? You absorbed it. You swallowed a recording of someone else and have been mistaking the playback for your own thoughts ever since. The voice telling you you're not good enough has an accent, and the accent isn't yours. If this is naming something you've carried for years without a word for it, subscribe. That's what we do here every week. Hand you the language your body already had, but your mind couldn't reach. Now the part that actually changes things. Jung's goal was never to kill the complex. You can't. You can't evict a voice by hating it. Hatred just feeds it more of your attention, which is the one thing it runs on. What he found was stranger and gentler than that. The moment you make a complex conscious, the moment you can look at the thought and say, out loud, "That's not me, that's them," you strip it of its autonomy. It stops being the truth about you and becomes what it always was. A quote. You've been waiting for someone to tell you how. Here it is. The next time the voice lands, after a mistake, a misread text, a glance in the mirror, ask one question. Would I say this in this tone, with these exact words, to someone I loved? If the answer is no, if you'd never speak to a frightened friend the way that voice speaks to you, then it didn't come from you. It came from them. Your real voice, the one underneath, has never once enjoyed your pain. Theirs did. You don't argue with it after that. You just answer it differently, kinder. The way you'd talk to the version of you that walked into that relationship hoping to be loved. You weren't thinking, you were quoting. The cruelest sentences you've ever aimed at yourself, you didn't write. You memorized them in someone else's voice, under conditions you'd never wish on anyone. And the second you can name the speaker, the recording stops being you. That's the work. Recognition. Every time you catch the accent and name whose it is, you take back a little of the ground they occupied rent-free. Jung called that individuation, becoming the author of your own inner life instead of a stage for everyone who hurt you. You are not crazy, and you were never too much. You were handed a voice and taught to call it conscience, and almost everyone who survives this leaves carrying the same passenger. You're not alone, and now you can finally hear it for what it is. So carry 3 things out of here. Ask whose voice it's in before you believe it. When you catch the accent, say it out loud. That's theirs, not mine. The naming is the work. And when the recording plays, and it will, let it finish without agreeing. It has no power you don't lend it. If someone you love keeps apologizing for things that were done to them, send them this. It might be the first time they realize the voice was never theirs. And tell me below, whose voice was it? The relationship, or further back than that? 1 word is enough. I read everyone. If this gave you language for something you've always felt but couldn't name, subscribe. We translate what your body already knows into language your mind can finally use. We do this every week.